very helpful.
It's good.
I just skimmed it.
20
And
seconds,
it's,
Randy.
yeah.
20 seconds. I know you're ready to go.
Fine.
There you go. That clock's off.
This meeting of the board is now called to order. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone to our meeting this evening, and we'll get started by approving our agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda as presented?
Not for me.
Is there a motion, please, to approve the agenda?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda as printed.
Thank you, Kurt.
Second, Bob.
Thank you, Keith. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes, and we'll move forward with the agenda as printed. And as usual, we'll start with the superintendent's report. Mark?
Thank you. Just, I have just one thing on the bond project update. Johnny is, Mr. Edwards is not with us this evening, so I'm presenting on his behalf. We have a small group of folks that are visiting some elementary schools with our architects to get some ideas of what other educational settings look like that we might want to consider. So it's so he's passed this off to me, and as you know, our projects are from the 2015 bond are really winding down. The softball dugouts, the roofing, the soffit, and the fascia work have all been completed, and we've scheduled final inspections for both of those dugouts for this spring. And once the weather breaks, we'll be putting some finishing touches on the field work and putting that back together and restoring the fences. So that project essentially is ready to go and for spring sports. At North Middle School, I don't know if you've been down Constitution Boulevard recently, but those letters have been moved and the coloring changed on that, so it gives a little more contrast between the buildings. So they're now located visually as you're coming down Constitution and not hidden. There's a large tree there that kind of blocks the direct view.
So they moved them west a little bit, right?
East.
Moved them the other way.
Yeah, east, so that as you're coming to the stoplight at Millam on Constitution, that's kind of right in front of you. So it's much more visible than it was before, so we have that. Commissioning at West Middle School and at Central Middle School is completed. All of the issues that were identified as needing to be resolved have been taken care of, so that's all done. So really from here on out, the only thing you'll be hearing is the softball dugouts update, aside from any other work we might do on the project enhancements. And then as far as the 2021 bond, we met with Tower Pinkster and Fielding International as well as OAK to discuss the preliminary scope and sequence of the elementary projects. That meeting was held on Friday, January 14th. We came out with a lot of good ideas, really vetted which route we could go and which route we couldn't go, pros and cons of all of that, and we will be planning on presenting that to the board at your February 7th meeting. So we have some really good ideas and some logical sequential order that made sense to us based on some of the limitations and expectations. And then Tower Pinkster and Fielding also engaged with our elementary principals and instructional coaches in some work last Friday in really trying to think of how do we want to design this space for the future. You know, we have program specifications that we've already put together, and we just want to make sure that we're allocating square footage to the right areas and understanding the implications of where square footage go, what kind of spaces we want to create, And that's kind of also gonna be informed by this site visit that they're doing this week. So, that's really it on the bond project updates. And happy to answer any questions if you have them on either the old bond or the new bond.
It's good information, Mark, thanks.
All right. Our next and final report is the financial report. And Paula is here to give that.
Good evening, Board of Ed and Superintendent Bueling. Included in your board packet was a financial report reflected through the end of December 2021. It's been a while since I've been up here in front of you. I want to thank Sammy Stevens for filling in for me when I was gone on vacation during the month of October. There's not a lot new to hit on this report. Some of this may sound repetitive from last time the report was given. Looking at the first page of the report where everything is broken out by function code, our local revenues are up due to operating property tax revenue. Curious Kids, that has been in operation all school year this year instead of just part of the year last year. Athletic gate receipts are up because we did not have any athletic gate receipts a year ago at this time, if you recall. The state categorical is up also due to the fact that our increase in our per pupil foundation allowance, which started in October with our state aid reports, or state aid payments, excuse me. We deferred ESSER supplemental money at the end of the year to use in this school year. Our at-risk carryover was up a little bit as well. I do want to point out that federal revenue is down. Federal revenue is down for a couple reasons. Last year at this time we had received the coronavirus relief money. That was about $3.2 million. We did not receive that this year. We also have not been able to draw down on any of our federal grants that we currently hold with MDE due to a software problem that they had submitting the consolidated application this year. That was just submitted this year under the old software, so we expect approval to come, shortly, and we'll be able to draw down on those funds. So the general fund is supporting those federal programs. We're still in compliance with everything because we're meeting all of our targeted due dates, but federal revenue is not coming in like it usually has in the past. Moving down to expenditures. Basic programs, the expenditures are up due to a large Chromebook purchase that we made. We put planned capital outlay back into the budget for 21-22. We didn't have it in there in the previous year. Over the summer, we had some special summer learning grants from MDE, and those were not reflective in the previous year. So all of that, and also in regards to the settling of the teacher contract, all of that would reflect an increase, as well as the increase in the UAAL rate on longevity costs. Added needs are up a little. We have some parapro salaries that we didn't have last year. When I was analyzing costs today, it looked as if some of the salary costs and the longevity costs were up in comparison from last year as well. All of that is planned for with KRESA. Moving down to instructional staff, that increase is reflective for curriculum costs compared to the prior year, substitute costs that are coming into play now when we really didn't have substitute costs last year, and contracted positions that weren't in place last year that are now. Moving down to operations and maintenance, that increase is because of the increase in our contract costs with GRBS. Our custodial overtime is up for the year because GRBS is short-staffed. Johnny is working with GRBS to rectify the situation in regards to our monthly invoice billings. Our school liaison officers were brought back on full-time this year, whereas in the previous school year they were only part-time. And our insurance cost with SETSEG did go up this year. Transportation is up. We're running buses 5 days a week. Compared to last year, we only ran them 4 days a week. Central services is up due to bond marketing costs, technology software licensing costs, and ESSER supplies that we've purchased with that money, that one-time money. Other support, athletic official costs are up compared to last year, and so are entry fees. Understandable if we didn't have those last year and we have them this year. Child care services is also up due to the fact that Curious Kids They started out they're reflecting a full year of revenue and expense this year, whereas last year, they started in late August, early September, I wanna say it was when they started last year. The second page of the report breaks down expenditures by object code, and I'll just point out a couple of variances that I see there, which are reasons that were already pointed out earlier by function code. Purchase services are up compared to last year due to those substitute costs. Our set seg insurance increased cost, subscription and software and support cost, Curious Kids, which has been in place all year, and GRBS. Supply costs are up due to the fact that we purchased Chromebooks, and our custodial supplies are up. So that pretty much gives you the overview, and it's a lot of the same information that Sammy probably reported to you back in October. Only just a few things have changed. But I would like to give you a quick update in regards to some of the other things that are starting to happen already for next year. The Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference, which we refer to as the CREC, was held on January 14th. And this is the first time that since May that the House and the Senate, they come together and they analyze revenue target numbers just to see how we're pacing with what the state thought we would collect for the year. And the good news is that estimates were revised up for both the general fund and the state school aid fund, a combined $3.16 billion to be exact. So everything is running well right now in regards to even them still coming out of the pandemic at the state level. So we're hopeful that will potentially mean a positive outcome for next year's budget. Also, the state has not finalized their audit for the year end September 30th, 2021 yet, but they're forecasted to be adding $2.69 billion in revenues to both of those, to both the general fund and the state school aid fund. $1.67 billion for the general fund and $1.02 billion for the school aid fund. So that's positive as well. The CREC is what starts the process for the budget, as I've mentioned to you before. So what happens from here is the governor and her team, they take that information, they move forward, they put together a budget. It should be released the first or second week of February. After that, the House and the Senate put together their budgets, and it goes through conference committee for a final bill. The governor will give her State of the State address this Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. She'll also give hints as to where she will pinpoint for certain things that she's going to put into her budget. You usually can get tidbits of information as far as where she's going to focus when you listen to the State of the State. The state is also monitoring enrollment because enrollment does drive how we are funded as a school district. The state did have a large drop between fall of 2019 to fall of 2020 of that 50,000 number that we've talked about before. Usually the state sees a drop of between 8,000 and 10,000 students a year. When they looked at fall of 2021, they felt that enrollment was starting to stabilize statewide. Hasn't fully recovered, but they didn't see the 8,000 to 10,000 drop. It pretty much stayed the same. It went up just a little bit. So, I mean, we're still experiencing the same outcome on our end. We have not rebounded from pre-pandemic enrollment to now. But we were lucky enough to have that super blend formula for last year, so we really didn't feel the full hit of the enrollment drop. Also,
So Paul, how many kids are we down?
from fall of 19 to fall of 20, we were down 220 kids. From fall of 20 to fall of 21, we were down 28 students.
So,
But it's
So
different
two.
formulas, right?
Yeah, and that's what makes it complicated, because in last fiscal year, we didn't feel the full impact of the student loss.
but the state's down 50,000 students,
Back from when they
and
looked
so
back.
then they estimate down 10, so they're down down 5 times what they normally
That
do.
happened two falls ago. So like this
Well,
fall
I
is,
get
yeah,
it, right,
yeah,
but they lost those kids.
correct.
I mean, you mentioned that, and the last number I remember, okay, was 30,000 kids that they were missing, but now the number is 50,000 that they lost.
Well, they could have been using the 30,000 number with the,
Right, that's the
the
number I
special
remember
plan.
you reporting it. I could be wrong, it was 18 months ago or whatever, you know, my memory's not that good, but that's the one that sticks in my head, you know, so. But now, the new number they're using is, they're down 50,000 from 2 years ago, as far as in the Michigan public school system.
correct.
Scary stuff.
So my office is currently working on finalizing a budget amendment that we will bring to you at the next board meeting for the general fund. We are close to having that completed, and our next count day will be February 9th. And that will be used to comprise our blended enrollment for next fiscal year. Any questions?
Excuse me, Paul, just, I guess more of a comment than a question, if I have this right. You know, we have teachers going out, you know, on illness and what have you. They're still getting fully paid, but then we're having to plug subs in there, which our sub costs are going up, so it's kind of raising a lot of costs, right?
Correct, and we had minimal, hardly any sub cost in the last fiscal year because it was so low.
And now
Because
we're
we were-
really high. And we're still paying teachers, and there's a lot more teachers sick than we could have ever imagined. So this is good. And then regarding GRBS, I'm happy to hear Johnny's working with them, because I know we pay per square foot, but I'm hearing they're moving to every other room, not doing a room every night. And so I'd have to imagine, I mean, I know it's hard to find people, but they still have responsibility to clean in the manner the contract says. So I imagine Johnny's trying to work on some type of,
He's working
Reduction or-
through a
because it
reduction
sounds like
through
we're getting
billing.
a reduction in service. But then you had indicated that.
Our costs overall are up right now for the contract, but we are seeing some small credits coming back through on billing.
Okay. Because I just heard I've heard a lot, even my son complains about, you know, that the buildings are in pretty bad shape. And I get it, they can't find people, but they can't be charging us the same.
Correct, and
per
that's
square
what he's
footage
working
if
on.
they're giving us half or, I don't know, 75% of the service, you know, I just find it troubling that they're still doing it, so.
I've heard the same things from several people, so it's good to know that it's being addressed.
You had mentioned the custodial expenses were up. Is that, I'm not sure where that fits.
The GRBS contract of
Okay,
service,
that-
and custodial costs are up in regards to, you know, our settled contract that we have with our union group, you know, but the substantial upswing that you can see is when you look at the purchase service account where we're paying GRBS out of. So we're working on rectifying that. Any other questions?
Well, thanks, Paul, that was a lot of good information. Good news about the revenue estimating conference. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to our comments and communications section. And first is comments by citizens, and our secretary, Dr. Celeste Shelton Harris, will read our guidelines for public comment. Thank you. That's your left. No, I wouldn't, no.
Public comment at board meetings. The board welcomes community input at our board meetings and recognizes the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on district matters. To permit fair and orderly public expression, please conform to these guidelines when addressing the board. Attendees must register their intention to speak during the public participation portion of the meeting by completing the speaker registration form at the beginning of the meeting. Individuals may not register others to speak. Speakers will be recognized by the presiding officer and may not be called in the order in which they have signed up to speak. Speakers are requested to state their name, address, and group affiliation if applicable. Limit comments to 3 minutes. Speakers may not yield any of their speaking time to others. Provide a written copy of your comments and supporting documentation to the board secretary if available. Present your comments in a respectful and professional manner to model the behavior expected of Portage students. Refrain from mentioning any student by name. Contact the superintendent directly regarding personnel matters. Board of Education meetings are held for the purpose of conducting the business of the school district and are not considered to be community meetings. Board members are not obligated to respond to issues raised during public comment. Normally, such issues are referred to or followed up on by our administrators.
Thank you, Celeste, and now we welcome our first speaker. Is it Ms. Toth? Hi, welcome.
It's actually MH Toth. I'm a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point, veteran Army officer, so I go by my initials.
Oh,
Mary Helene, but go by MH. I'm just here tonight to learn. I wanted to, see all of you. You obviously have taken an oath to support the Constitution, as I did, both of the U.S. and of Michigan. And I was just curious. I've sent some emails to the superintendent, haven't heard back. But I was curious tonight just to learn, and I guess I'll hear back later, possibly from admin, in regards to the ESSER fund and how those funds were spent, how much is remaining, and if there are any strings attached, how it's been allocated. So again, I appreciate your service. I appreciate being afforded the opportunity to come and listen tonight. That's all that I have. Thank you.
oh, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service. Our next speaker is Juliet Altman, please.
Sorry, technology, trying to get my notes so I can stay focused. Hi, thank you for taking my time. My name's Juliet. You guys already have my address. I found it interesting that I walked in as they were mentioning that the student loss was 50,000 and that the fall before you had lost 219 and this fall you lost 28 students, when apparently the lawyer that was hired by Portage, when he was addressing the court, said if parents are unhappy, they can take their kids, leave the district, and go to another district. So apparently you guys aren't hurting that much. But the reason I am here is I am a mother of 4. School has been in session since September. That means we have had 85.5 school days, not counting the one snow day we had and obviously the one half day is already counted in there. I have 2 special needs kids in Portage. My healthy special needs son has been close contact traced quarantined for a total of 30 days. Today was his return to school from his latest 10-day close contact quarantine. Once was because he sat kitty corner from a child that was masked for 45 minutes. The last 2 times he has been close contact quarantine from a staff member that was obviously masked during his time and interaction with him. Not once during these 30 days of close contact quarantine has my son developed any symptoms. Would all of you fail to understand, as none of you are clearly parents to special needs kids, much less educators to special needs kids, is that these are children that are very challenging with different circumstances. So what does that mean? He has been absent in addition to these 30 days because he has sleep issues. Most autistic children struggle with sleep. So sometimes I have to keep him home because he does not sleep. He will be up from 5 a.m. and will be up for the following 24 to 36 hours. I, as a parent, keep him home because he's not in a right mental state to be in school. Weather transitions are hard. So that means that when the weather changed from shorts to pants, he wouldn't wear pants. So I had to keep him home from school because he was struggling. He has allergies. He was not allowed to be at school because he was sneezing. I literally had to make an appointment with a doctor to reiterate that he has allergies. he's my special needs kid, won't take allergy medicine, but wasn't allowed to be at school because he sneezed. But you don't care. Portage doesn't care. When I first stood before you before school started, you said parents will have a decision, that your hands were tied because you were following the mandates of counties and county health department. And yet, there is no mandate, and you are still doing whatever you feel. You have an option, but clearly you get to pick and choose without taking into account the special needs kids. I'm just talking about 2 students. The other student has also missed 20 days. Where is the education for my children? Please ponder it, and I do look forward to getting a response. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juliet. Thank you very much for coming and for your comments. Our last speaker tonight is Micah, and I'm sorry I can't read the last name.
Handwriting's never been my thing. It was a problem when I was in the Army, I was a retired officer, so small group, if you take my card and pass it down, please. Do you guys mind if I take this off while I'm done?
Fine.
Hello, my name's Micah Perkins. I'm with the Michigan Building Trades. I'm relatively new in this position. What I do is I represent the skilled trades for West and Southwest Michigan. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to get around to the different school boards in the area that I represent, introduce myself, talk to you a little bit about the skilled trades, and hopefully develop a relationship where we can continue to have a conversation. First of all, let me say, don't envy your positions at all. I know it's a very challenging time between your health issues, political issues, and things like that, so thank you for what you're doing. Just a little bit about myself. I actually am probably the only plumber that you're ever going to meet who also has a teaching degree, so a little bit of an odd cat. And so the reason I was hired to do this job is because of my education background. Probably not telling anyone anything you don't already know, but as the trades go, we are aging out. The average age of a construction worker on a job site is somewhere in the mid-50s, early mid-50s. Not a sustainable trajectory for what we need to do, especially with all the federal construction dollars that are coming into the state right now. So my request to every school board that I get to be in front of is to please let me talk to your children, your students, about the skilled trades as an option. It is, without a doubt, a very viable alternative for a lot of young people to going to college. When you graduate from high school, if you go into the skilled trades, at the end of your apprenticeship, you will be getting out of those apprenticeships with no debt, with very often an income that goes into the 6 figures, with world-class health care, a pension, and a lot of other assorted benefits. It is a very viable source of work for a lot of young people. The other relationship that we always try to develop as the skilled trades is when you guys have bond issues, when you have new construction projects, we would love to get in front of you to talk about the options that you have. We offer the best because we don't train our apprentices to be a jack of all trades, a little bit of electrical, a little bit of plumbing, a little bit of carpentry. If you go into an apprenticeship, you will be the best plumber, you will be the best carpenter, you will be the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because we train to be the best, the specialist in those fields. That is the benefit of having the apprenticeships, and it's what makes us truly unique in the construction industry. I live in Grand Rapids. I forgot to mention that. You asked for address, so I'm a little bit out of the way, which is why I was late, because you have a beautiful, huge campus, and I got a little lost. So I apologize for that. But anyway, I look forward to working with you. You have my information, and please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Micah? Yes, sir. Do you know Keith Ledbetter?
I'm sorry?
Do you know Keith Ledbetter?
The name's familiar, but
Okay.
I'm drawing a blank.
He's on the east side, so I know he's real big in this, so. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Micah. Comments from board trustees? Does anyone have anything this evening?
Just a reminder, if you don't know, that Portage Northern is putting on Peter and the Starcatcher this weekend. It starts Thursday night, actually. They were delayed a little bit because of a COVID among the cast members. And then Portage Central will open with Anastasia on Friday, February 11th. So support the arts in Portage.
Thanks, Terry.
I'll just say, once again, Mark, congratulations for getting us to the first semester. I'm hoping the second semester and things start to calm down and, this is our last big wave and we can start returning to normal, but I'm just happy we're here where we're at. We made it halfway to the finish line. And, I know everybody's working hard. It's a horrible time. I mean, tough time to be a teacher, tough time to be a parent, tough time to be, my wife's a physician at the hospital, and she's taking care of COVID patients. It's just awful to be a healthcare worker. Just thanks to everybody. I ran with Bo this morning. I ran into a bus driver from KPS, and she stopped at a stop. I poked my head in the bus and said hi, and, just everybody's working hard. So thank you, Mark, and to you and everybody. And is it MH?
Yes.
So we're gonna have a real quick meeting tonight. They're not always like this. So I don't want you to think all our meetings are so quick and so. And thank you for everybody for coming.
Thanks, Rusty.
I'm just gonna reiterate what Paula said. If we lost 50,000 kids in the state of Michigan, there's about 1.5 million, that's about 3% of the kids that they've lost, okay, in the whole state. Obviously, our numbers are much lower than that, but that's an astoundingly bad number for the state of Michigan, to lose that many kids in 2.5 years or whatever. Lose track of them, don't know where they are, we're not educating them, we're not, that's a huge number for the state of Michigan. And so it's just number, nothing that affects this board or this population, but it affects us as a state. It's a huge number.
Would be interesting to know where they went. If they're private, if they're not in school at all, if they've moved out of the state, it would be interesting to know.
Well, and also comparing that with the total out-migration of the population of Michigan as a whole, in the state.
Yeah.
We were not one of the 3 biggest losing states from, that was just announced 2 weeks ago. It was, California and New York and Illinois and the winners were Florida, Texas, and Georgia or North Carolina or something like that, so. We weren't in the top 3 on either side of that equation.
Thanks, Kurt.
Randy, I would just, I'd thank our public commenters, all good messages that we need to hear as a board. I'd say to Mr. Perkins, my brother is a recently retired 55-year-old sheet metal guy. And so, yeah, definitely empathize with that point, and those are really good careers.
Did you say 55?
5'5".
Anyone else?
And when you're in sheet metal, at 55, it's time.
Is it?
It's time.
Sounds awfully young.
But in case you don't know, that the county has just approved, they're building K-Reese is building a new high school for over $100 million, privately funded for the trades. So Randy sits on that board also.
Yeah, your comments were right on. Thank you. Anyone else? Well, just building on what Rusty said, thanking our staff for everything they're doing to keep our kids in school and keep the kids safe, and recognition that parents are going through tough times here too. My 4 grandsons last week were hit with contact tracing and, positive diagnosis and in and out of school, and,
Same here.
Yeah, and, I can't imagine what parents go through and staff to make all this work. So just a shout out and thank you for everything everybody's doing to keep our kids safe and keep them in school. And thanks for our speakers tonight. Appreciate all of your comments, and I'm sure someone will be getting back to you. Thank you very much. Okay, any board committee reports? Okay, we can move to the consent agenda then. On page 7, we have 5 items tonight. The first is approval of our January 10th, 2022 organizational meeting, committee of the whole work session. And the next 4 items were all discussed at that meeting. The second item is to approve as presented the purchase of student and teacher chairs for Central and Northern High School for a total purchase cost of $74,227, the funds for which will come from the 2019 bond fund, proposal number 1, unallocated contingency. The third item is to approve the 22-23 programs of study for our elementary, middle, and high schools as presented. The fourth item is to authorize the award of phone services contract to Telnet Worldwide of Madison Heights, Michigan, in a base amount of $167,768 annually for a term of 5 years, the funds for which will be drawn from the general fund starting in the 2022-23 school year. And then finally, to authorize the purchase of 1,100 phones from Telnet Worldwide of Madison Heights, Michigan, in an amount not to exceed $135,750, the proceeds for which will come from the 2021 bond fund. Are there any exceptions to the consent agenda as presented? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. And I believe we have reached the end of our agenda, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.